here in our gym of Florida. Amen.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I pledge allegiance
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to, call it, privilege to read something that, a proclamation. As you can see, my shirt, Juneteenth. We had a proclamation that, I distributed to, most of the churches, I didn't have to all of them, but, I just thought I'd read this in our, meeting before we start. Proclamation, Juneteenth. June 19th, 2025. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration of the ending of slavery, and whereas on June 19, 1865, a Union Major General named Gordon Granger proclaimed that the war had ended and that the slaves were free. That proclamation took place 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, which had to become official on January 1st, 1863. And whereas Juneteenth is a time for celebration, freedom, and encouraging self-development and respect for all cultures, and whereas the African American community gather with loved ones and celebrate with prayer, guest speakers, barbecues, parades, dancing, rodeos, fishing, picnics, baseball, and whereas the state of Texas declared June 19th a legal holiday, state legal holiday, in 1980. And since that time, Juneteenth celebrations have grown across the nation. And whereas the citizens of Lake Helen continue to celebrate mostly in church, with family and friends. And now, therefore, the City Commission of the City of Lake Helen hereby recognizes the importance of Juneteenth in our community. In testimony thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the City of Lake Helen and the state of Florida on this June 19th day of 2025. This is signed by Mayor Vernon Burton. I got this actually out of the archives because the original one that I found was signed by Buddy Snowden, and that was back in the day. Just as another point of information, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed to take effect in January 1863, slaves over in Texas did not get that message. When the word was out that slavery had already ended and that as a result of the day on January the 1st, slaves were waiting for this great day that was supposed to come. And from that point on to today, the African American communities on New Year's Eve celebrate what we call Watch Night. Imagine the people who never knew what slavery was and they're going to tell them on a certain date you're going to be free. They thought it was going to be a clap of thunder. So that Watch Night became part of our history, part of our tradition. And once this proclamation was put into law, we now have a legal holiday of Juneteenth. And I thank you for allowing me to share this with you. Okay? Back to the work at hand. Please do.
Madam Clerk, could you please have the record reflect that I have missed 33% of the budget workshops? Not happening. Thank you.
You missed 33%?
33%.
So you want your 33% back?
That was my first workshop. You're right. I want the record. I missed 33% of the budget workshops.
Okay, Mr. City Administrator, is
that's the biggest thing. The ground storage roof is on the Capitol. Go ahead and talk about that. The ground storage tank roof is bad. It's metal. It's the only part of the tank. The other part of the tank is made out of fiberglass like a bathtub. We had the tank was installed in 99, 2000 when we had that done. It's 25 years old. The roof again is not. It's metal. They now make their own aluminum when they replace them. They want to fix it. The company's Aqua Store is one, they own the rights to it. They're the only ones that do the roof. It's their roof, their tank. And that's the price for the new roof, which will be aluminum, which won't have to be replaced anymore. And also what they call sacrificial hanos inside. We have like on a boat, we have these foam bars that are inside of the bottom of the tank. That's what the water attacks for electrolysis in there. And there, I had them put that in, replace them while they're there also with the tank being down. So later on, you're gonna see that in the, coming out of the ARPA funds, or we did have, Woodland and Curran, we've been going through looking at stuff about getting funding possibly for it. You can hold off a year and see if we can get funding on it. We don't wanna take out ARPA. It's not gonna fall, it's not gonna make it, we can do some temporary patches on the holes if we have to. They just won't patch it. Nobody, they don't want to touch it. It's just some holes, we can fix them with just temporary patches, but we are gonna have to put a roof on it. The lifespan of that's what it is. The rest of it, no problem, it's like I said, it's like a bathtub, it's porcelain, all the way around, and everything else is in great shape. So, again, when we get to ARPA, if you wanna keep that out, we can do it, but it will have to be put, next year probably our drop dead to get it put on.
Yeah, that was for the water utility.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking non-ag, or it's not ag for, paid after the kill. And Rick talked about what are occurring, and I set this out, you guys have had this before, but I'll just kind of highlight it, because there's always a lot of misinformation out there. You wonder where people get the facts, or not facts, they're just wrong. We did get $175,000 for a vulnerability assessment that's going on right now, and that's a vulnerability assessment of our infrastructure and our water plant items that are going on. We got that through Department of Environmental Regulation. We got $192,500 from Florida Department Environmental Protection for the lead service line that we did last year. I don't know the details of the article I read, but $375,000 made through the state legislature were one of 7 projects in Volusia County. It still awaits the governor's signature, and since he's testing, they put the House and the Senate right now, and it could be until everything they did last year, so we'll see what happens. The newspaper article said City Hall, but my notes show that we applied for both stormwater and City Hall, and the amount that they say in the newspaper was for City Hall is more than what we'd asked. So I'm waiting for some detail to see if somehow that article got convoluted, that we got money out of both pots, but $375,000. We've applied for $3,879,960 for drinking water main replacement, and they're continuing to work on the applications and should be submitting them shortly for $15 million for the drinking water system improvements and $20 million for the stormwater system. And we got $200,000 from Transform 386, and we are preparing an application that will be in before the deadline to submit back to them. That could be a multi-million-dollar project in the stormwater phase. So we're being pretty aggressive in trying to get money that we haven't gotten before into there. So,
Is that money that we're applying for, or money?
oh,
that
some we've already got, some of we've applied for. So I gave you a combination of what we received and what we applied.
At some point, would you, give us a bottom line, if nothing else, talking point that we got X millions of dollars that's not taxed?
I did send you this, but
Hundreds of dollars. But like you said, to alleviate misinformation, sometimes having a talking point that can kind of put things in a clear perspective, it doesn't have to wander around the ethers. I appreciate it.
So as Rick said, I mean, the roof is $200,000. I mean, we'll get to when we do capital, but it's story when I got here about how many dead meters or whatever we have, you know, it wasn't that dramatic of an increase, so those folks maybe went from an $86 bill to a $93 bill or something like that, so we maybe weren't losing as much as we thought in reference to what I'll just say the daily household, because we haven't seen that big spike in revenue, so we gotta keep an eye on that, because you need revenue of your expenses, so you're
I would even suggest that, if we took a survey of the number of swimming pools that were installed during the off-meter period. That's just as I don't wanna get in the weeds, but what I used to, it was a comment of someone said this would be a good time to dig a swimming pool, because nobody's gonna get metered for it.
Before now, it would have been a good time.
Yeah, before, well, that's what I was talking about, that's when I was talking about it, cause it made no sense that we had meters that not working, and there were swimming pools going up, and they could not be, well, that's just the.
Nobody sure said anything about those $86 bills though.
Oh, no, you're right.
They should have said
That is true, because I was talking with one guy on Woods, he had a bad meter, and he was paying, what, $87 a quarter. He went and had a pool installed and filled it up. A month after he filled up the pool, he got the new meter installed, and his water bill went up. He's got a family that he deals with, so he was actually using more than what he was getting billed for anyway. But he got his pool done before the bill went up.
like I said, we did see an uptick this last one, but as Rick tells me, and, you know, some
We'll always
of
have
them
some,
are
yeah, it will be all right.
another billing cycle to get a little better.
And I went
You
back,
gotta add water to the pools and to
Yeah.
a lot of.
I went back 4 years, almost 5 years, and did every year, and we're kind of similar where they are there. So I'd say we're not losing much as we were, because most people pay, it gets your bulk of your money from the $80-something. Your usage is where you get the extra money. But we have, with the meters in now, one more billing cycle, but to be really truthful, after this, we'll have to go around another cycle, you know, next year to really get a good, but it's pretty good right now. We did have a good uptick on it, on there, so this one should be really good, and that'll help show us where it's at and level out.
Are there any leaks that we're not capturing is there a way to, we got a pipe leak that's been ongoing for a while, and now
We
everybody's,
just fixed one up in Cassidy.
and you just not finding
We
it?
finally found it in 3 weeks. We didn't know where it was. Actually, there was an old water tower up in Cassidy up on the hill. Guy told us where it was. Went up there because the meter fed the house. They were having real low pressure. Cassidy Hotel, so we had to try to find, because some of those lines go to their houses. So we were up there looking, and the guy who lived there knew all about it. Walked up there. They turned off the meter, and they could hear water running, and the line feeding that house had rotted up there. And they got up there, and there's pedestals, and I said, yeah, there was an old cypress wooden tower, and they used to pump from the lake in the early 1900s, fill that up and feed the settlement, because it was like a winter thing for the settlement. So we didn't know, and there's a big valve right there with a tree on top of it. If that tree falls, that valve's gonna rip out, we're gonna have a mess. So we're gonna have to address that coming up there. And Casadega, I didn't see that anywhere on the county's principal either, because I don't think it was there.
Say that again? I didn't come
I don't
up
think the county knew it was there either, because it wasn't on our principal, they gave them to us. We found it by mistake up there.
Gave them to us, pawned them off.
Every system has a certain loss.
Yeah.
Ideally, you keep it somewhere between 5 and 10%, but because there's lines leaking, you know, everywhere, you know, not necessarily on somebody's property, just our own.
Our lines leak.
And we probably,
That's what I
could
think.
guess what it is, we probably, I'm gonna say maybe a little higher than what you would want, just based on the age of the infrastructure.
At one time, we were at 28%. And we brought it down over the years of finding stuff and doing things like that, and some of it was a little off because of, you know, the owners that was in there, so you have to have that in your flushing and in your, anything that goes like that's there, so we're trying to calculate the loss now, but 3 weeks, about 3 weeks, you know, we can see through the, daily, how much they pump every day, we're trying to figure out what we kind of lost there. And that doesn't affect the bottom dollar, we do cost money to produce it, but it's not a big cost like that there, it's just a loss for our company and stuff, so you try to keep that as much as you can accounted for.
I think the other thing is that, it says something about if we have to fight a fire.
Oh, we don't have enough fire, we don't have enough to cover.
We, explain that, the tanks.
We don't have enough storage, we need more storage.
So if a fire surrounding areas that would be affected by it, what would be the outcome? I was under the impression that if we had a fire, we could, I should ask firemen over here, what could we, out of our pumps, sustain and how long? That's just a thought.
A lot of it depends on what type of system the county is using.
They just suck it up, right? Push them in there.
Deltona moved to air compressed foam. They hook up to a hydrant for a water supply, but they might use 100 gallons of water for an entire house fire because the compressed air foam uses less water.
Oh, that's nice.
That's why their trucks now have smaller tanks and they got more storage room for other things. Volusia County, I don't know how far they are into moving to that system or not. The old system, yeah, it would take about 10,000 gallons of water or more to put out a structure fire. And most of them, like Lake Helen, because of the old, hard pine wood that they're made out of, most of them are surrounded around because if they catch on fire, it's like an oil well catching on fire.
You still got it in your
Yeah,
crystal ball for another?
our next expansion would be at Lemon. We'll put another ground storage tank there and change that over. I already talked to, Woodard and Kern, that's also a vulnerability too, to take care of that. Your biggest fear out here right now is if you have a couple of big 6-inch water breaks at one time, they can't keep up. The pumps can't keep up, there's no way. It's just, they're not strong enough that you're gonna suck down without storage pretty quickly. So we flush very, one on, you can't turn 3 or 4 hydrants on even at 2.5 quart, because it just drags you down so much. But we're working on it, that's why I want to put the 4th well eventually up there on Church in Pennsylvania, keep that up there and have more storage there.
Thank you.
On building maintenance, so you see that we are budgeting or suggesting to budget another $10,000 on there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Is that in?
That's painting, a lot of that's painting stuff, is redoing all the piping and painting around there. We constantly keep them painted on. We're gonna actually do, I'll bring this up off the thing, but saying, the bathrooms, our park bathrooms, we're gonna tile them. We're gonna get the good tile that they use out there, it's not slip, so we can stop painting them all the time. I'm thinking about doing out the wells, a lot of the wells stuff, it's easier to keep it cleaner. We can do that, a lot of that's that paint, the chlorine eats up the paint and everything, so we're doing that in there, trying to help out. But we have some maintenance on the buildings, we have to take care of at all times, and it needs some TLC on them, keep them up.
Other questions on the utility? As Rick said, we can deal with capital items when we go through the capital list. So we do have a page in here, and they're all there, it's general fund and what have you, so. Any other questions? Now, I will say that if we get successful on grant money or whatever the water system, there may be a need at some point to do a new water rate study. To have that wrapped up, because while the grant, some of that also requires payback, and so it may be that at some point we have to match our revenue. Again, if there's a grant, even forgivable, you still gotta leave some payment. So there may be a point that there's that a rate study, but we haven't been notified yet, we have to wait and see.
Weren't we required to do a rate study for the loan?
Yeah, you are, that's all right, they'll run through it and get that, yeah.
And I think a couple of years we had skipped it and we were in some sort of a new Dutch because we had not done that survey. And we had to either make
I'm
it.
not aware of that myself.
Alright.
I think, is that the reason why we have a CPI on the water right
Yeah,
now?
that was years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That was many years ago.
Many years
They didn't
ago.
raise
Well, the historical commission approved that one at Camp Baptist Church, so they said it was historic to look at, yeah.
The biggest argument about the last time they talked about replacing the city hall sign with a digital sign was they didn't want to lose the framework, that's the historical part of it. And they thought that if they replaced the sign, they're gonna lose the whole sign, but they can actually put that digital screen inside.
Right,
Where the
yeah.
other part is, and keep the frame,
You can.
so you don't lose that historical frame.
Yeah, I spoke to someone that gave us I guess you could call it perspective of what it would cost. And they also described how it could be utilized. The only thing that would maybe have to consider if the base might not, maybe needed to expand, but as far as the digital size of it, because he came out, he took a survey and he said he could fit everything that we got, everything that he would project, right in that same spot, on the same footprint, basically.
Next item are both police department, 35, K total, vehicle and apparatus. Highlight anything on that here?
No, that was the same thing, it was in the over our budget.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
All right.
And,
We have, 150,000, public works for a roller and dump truck. And I think half of that can be paid for from our, right
It's
now.
not a note on there.
The utility,
Funded
yeah,
by
yeah.
utility, yeah.
Okay, and then 97,000 for Hopkins Hall, with the big ticket item on that being the elevator.
The handicap lift over there is no longer ADA and it's not legal. And they cannot fix that one there, it doesn't meet any codes. Supposed to have it inspected every year also, it never was, it's put in according to the guy without a permit way back when, I guess, they put Chuck Laughlin did the remodel here. And the guy modified some of the room there and put one in that's, you have to have a phone line, same as you have the elevator. So we're gonna have to do that. And then there's also money for the floors, get the floors redone. Then there'll be a reoccurring, repair and maintenance to do with the floors every time during the year.
Do you know how much the flooring part of that project is?
If we go to, I think I put
The
15,000.
lift was like 50,000.
Yeah, this is around 50,000, I think, because he said you're gonna have to do some remodeling of the doors and some other stuff there because it won't fit exactly in there. So we're gonna have to do that when it comes time to look at it. So I put enough in there to cover construction and stuff like that. The lift's around 30-something thousand by itself. If you go to the front, I put 15,000 in for the floors. The first two pages, I believe, you'll see. Hopkins Hall should be like the first one. Yeah, before they put 15,000 in to get them redone, it'll also cover some, waxing along there. And that's also redoing along there, the edges there, taking care of all that, along and redoing all that too is in there. So it gets it all back to normal and looking really nice and then just wax it from then on, just maintenance by the company.
That's yearly, the 15,000 would be a yearly.
No, it'll probably be less than that once we do this right here, it'll be less.
Okay.
It's just a one time to get them all and do all these walls and get them all back in shape, and then from there, you're probably looking at about, typically 45 and 5, depending on what you're doing every year. Reoccurring to take care of that. And then I also put in the UV lights again here for the ACs. We replaced 2 air conditioners and they already have them. Got to redo the other ones, also put in 3 brand new air conditioners to get them all the same period. They're older, they're gonna go, so why not do them all now? They're programmed to come in on CIP. That takes care of all them right there. That should all be in that part right there.
And the lift is probably not a choice, because of 188 lawsuit. Probably more than offset the cost of doing a lift, if somebody were to rent or come in and use this, and somebody wasn't able to access it. I mean, so, like, we know that now, and so we have to do something about it.
I mean, coming up that way.
Well, that's easy, here, it's for the stage.
It's on
The
the
stage
The
is
stage,
that.
that's what it is, right there in that.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever sees us over there in that little hallway there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I actually got the guy who helped install it, he worked for the company, and he bought the company that actually installed it, he was telling me all about it. He does it, he knew everything, I've been talking about it for the last few months, so.
For the stage.
Set it out.
No. I believe that was a requirement also, of the brand here with the Echo, where we have here on this one. When they did the remodel, that's when that's what it is, so it's a requirement to keep that in there. They had to make it ADA, everything is ADA. That's why we have a ramp out there, after the ADA, that had to become ADA.
We don't have to pay back anymore.
No, we do not.
We still own one of this?
No. No, but you have to report every year, I think we still report on it.
Yeah, we have to report.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to, the fact the reports come in, July, is it July 15th?
Yeah. It was.
It doesn't report, I mean, we submit how many rentals and estimated people and all of that, yeah, we have to do a report to them on
Same with the
West
West.
Trade Center and whatever on the Echo.
And Macy.
The trail,
The trail.
everyone.
Not Macy.
Yeah.
How do we capture the number of people if someone has an event?
We can take their application, sometimes they put an estimate of the attendees, so, I mean, you know, not scientific, we're not your counting, but at least we have no robust report last year than we had this year.
So knowing that it's required, kind of like.
Yeah, and
some
they,
guide.
it's asked if this is estimate or exact, so.
And you're required to look at it and have it out there too, so you have.
They wanna see that you're doing, having classes and or events and all kinds of stuff. And we have a CPR class here next Tuesday.
Right, so that is the general fund portion, 324,400. Then we'll just drop down then to the,
Well, back up on the infrastructure that was listed there. I know on the first day we talked about eliminating the sidewalk. I think we're doing the citizens a disservice by eliminating money being set aside to install sidewalks. We have a requirement to protect our pedestrians. And even if we put 50,000 in for sidewalks next year, at least that's putting in something that's going to protect the citizens and meet their safety standards.
Was that discussion to not put sidewalks in front of City
The
Hall?
first day that we had the meeting, there was a mention that there was $100,000 for sidewalks, and it was immediately requested to be eliminated and removed.
But that was mainly because of the trail behind the dump going to the school. And they were gonna do that.
The
with-
trail's 100,000,
Yeah,
95,000.
so they were gonna do that with millions and stuff of sidewalk.
Which
So
is-
it's
But
not,
there was also talk about sidewalk in front of City Hall on the first day, on Monday night.
I said, we got prices on
Yeah.
that, but that 100,000,
That 100,000 could be either, I mean, it was 95 for that here, but I had hoped you were gonna say, let's not do that in the, behind the ball field, because you're wasting money.
No,
It's not-
I would say do the millings on that because it's actually a trail.
How, do we, do we have to have the commission formally say that, or can I go ahead and have it removed and go ahead and get that done? Because we can have it all removed for free. Dr. Cost will done, and have it removed.
I thought you said that, I thought it was a conversation that we would do millings because sidewalks, it's over a dump, and whatever we did, it would still be
Yeah, that's
right
what we're
away.
saying.
I just wanna be clear before I pull the trigger and have that removed, because right now it's a safety issue, it's been a safety issue. You have 2 or 3 foot drops out there, where they go.
I kind of thought we, well,
Just double checking before I have it removed.
then we'll have to wait till the 10th. They're not doing motions and.
I mean, do they have to?
I would rather get checked before we walk out of here thinking we can just go out and do something.
Okay, that's why I was asking.
So if there is a motion, then they can.
Okay.
the south side. The only section that's left is from High Street to Lakeview. And there's a couple sidewalks in place that sidewalks to nowhere, that this would fill in those gaps. And we keep on telling residents, you don't need to put in sidewalks, we'll exempt you from that. It's like, why? Now it's coming down to, well, we gotta pay to have it done.
So you want sidewalks on the side of City Hall? The
On the
rest-
side in front of City Hall, I'd like them on both sides of Lakeview all the way down. But hopefully, we can get some commercials moving in that would fill in some of those.
If we put sidewalks in front of City Hall, we're probably going to have to move our sign and everything.
No,
It should be set back on now.
you shouldn't have to move the sign.
Maybe close, you gotta go there. Now, remember that too, if you do that, you also have two other places you have to decide on. PD, down front there, is ours, and down at Main Street and Lakeview.
Well, there is a thing on the park plan on having sidewalks all the way around the park. So that's in the park plan. We can probably, once we get done paying off with that, we might be able to do something with that going forever or whatever, to be able to upgrade the park with those grants.
We didn't recommend it, so that's the capital decision, but you add 50,000 back in, that takes you to 7.4.
Yeah, then you gotta find 50,000 someplace else to take out. I don't know, keep on sidewalks. I don't know why it's not large.
We have two dump trucks, we have one little tiny one that's actually older than the big dump truck. It's a 1994, the one we're gonna replace. It doesn't drive anymore, I barely made it back last time, it's dead in the water there. I had put it in 2021, and the price was around 65,000, and nobody got it. And now we're up to about 105 for one to get that, and that's not a super big one, that's just one to replace what we have now. The little one's not gonna withstand, it's a 1990. It can't, you can put one bucket on there and that's it. So we can't haul millings or anything like that without a dump truck or brush or anything at all without it. But it was budgeted in 2021.
But that's been spent though.
Yeah.
So,
And the asphalt roller is a roll of millings.
but we've got contractors.
We do all the, we do it now. We've been doing it.
You've been doing.
Yeah, we do, yeah. One of the contractors, loans us some asphalt roller, we have for the last couple of times, but we can't bank on that.
Don't do all that around behind the lake,
Around the way.
behind the post office or?
No, not that one, not that one, no.
Okay.
We've been doing the roads, like Heather's Road, all that, the roller was there, the roll that part right there, was a bunch of us.
You can borrow mine.
You got a roll?
I guess my point is if we're
It's an
going,
old, it's an old one that they used to pack the baseline.
Oh,
Hand pull it. I pull it around with my lawnmower.
I guess my point is if we're hiring contractors to do the road work, which we're obviously not, they're only gonna do a portion of the
Yeah, they
road
do
work.
the paving part with hot asphalt, they use the paving machine.
And
They only do the intersections.
and sealants and who handles.
We do everything except for like the big asphalt patches, we can't do them. We do our own little roads, dirt roads on, we do all that ourselves now.
And do we have engineers
Well, we're recommending all of it, this be out of ARPA. But ARPA would cover it, but it would be half, in theory, would be for the water department and half would be for the general fund, how the asset would be allocated. But it would be paid for out of ARPA.
And that's my concern, because with some of these grants that we're going for, now what I heard last Friday over in Daytona, a lot of the matches are 25%, there are some at 50%, but we've got to have the matches, to get any grant funds. So if we keep dipping into the ARPA fund, where are we going to get the match money?
But I understand what you're saying, yeah, the ARPA funds were never, ever designed for that. These were funds that were supposed to have been spent. This was money given to cities to help them through COVID. So it was never designed to be a savings account. Anywhere else across the country, and there's even in Florida, where reports have to be done, because I saw the email going through, we just don't have to submit one. So there's still reports going to the state and federal government on how you spent your ARPA funds. So they weren't just giving people as, here, put this money in your savings account.
No, I went out and I did research on it, just to make sure that when we took money out of ARPA, that we were actually putting it into the correct departments. Public Works being one of the top places that you could put that money. So what you're saying then is that we can't really use that as a match to go towards any public
You
works.
can, but then if you, and not arguing, but you can do that definitely and not buy any of these. But if you're gonna buy equipment, why not buy it with federal money you got? That saves your taxpayers buying equipment that they normally would be funding out of the military.
But at the same token, when you spend it on that, I get what she's saying, because then you still gotta take the match money out of your general fund, so it kind of just is like.
Would you rather come up with a match or nothing at all?
No, we
No,
can't.
Because this city got nothing.
No,
No,
I
we
know.
gotta come up with a match, and that's the point, is because this whole year, you know, it's been said over and over again, we have no money, we don't have any money to match any grants actually, okay, for this whole year. Now we're getting to a point that it looks like, okay, we're building up some of these funds, is this the most
The
appropriate?
ARPA's
time?
not built up, that's a fixed amount. There's no money going back.
I'm sorry, I made myself clear. But will we be taking it out of the most appropriate funds, or do you think that ARPA is the most appropriate fund because it's a federal fund?
That's my recommendation, and your match would come out of your reserves, your unspent reserves, where you're at 30%, that's over almost 800,000.
Okay.
Well,
And
what
I
we
just-
can do is we can take our 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plans, figure out what's in those and what we wanna get done that we would have to do matching funds for, and build our reserve up higher to be able to have the funds in there for when we get to those to do that.
And I agree with that, we discussed that yesterday, and I agree with that, to build up and have something at least a cushion.
We might have to change the percentage that we want to reserve
And-
based on
and the
what we've
utility
done in those years.
The utility fund will happen when we get our meter money back. We put all of our reserves, most of our reserves to pay for the meters up front. You're probably gonna get that $500 or more $1,000, $100,000. It goes back into the utility reserves. So that would help match anything on the utility side and new projects.
I can't believe we haven't started having that yet.
But
This takes time.
commission decision, I would just say, you know, if you're looking at capital, you can use ARPA. And I'm just gonna give you a ballpark, you know, that 449 is about 2 million. So if you use federal money to buy equipment, whatever you save your citizens, you just vote.
No, and I get that, it's just that I wanna make sure that we do have matching funds.
Yes, we have.
So
always address infrastructure and development, we were always hands off. We were always behind the eight ball, if you will, because we didn't want to do this, we didn't want to do that. Lake Health was probably known for not wanting any development at all. And so we didn't develop. If you don't develop, then you don't have to do all of these things that will accommodate a development. We're in a position now that we can try to begin to catch up, not fully, but if you're using ARPA funds to fund a project that would ordinarily be a tax revenue, when we do change these numbers around, ARPA fund will put not a dent in our millage, it won't move it at all. But instead of using the ARPA, we use tax money, then that's when we're back to where we are, trying to get a point here and a point there.
I just wanted to be clear on it,
Having
to
that.
make sure, you know, that we're gonna have some fund someplace for matches, because that's coming down the pipe. Next year is gonna be worse.
And that was probably more apparent when Barnaby was talking about windows, and he kind of gave us, yeah, we can do it, but then the county said, the state said, well, you don't have the match. So it kind of gave him a, well, we're gonna do it, but he already, I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but when it came down to it, they asked us where's the match. So all of the bluff that we were giving, that we got money coming in, that whole of match, and I will appreciate and understand that you're highlighting that, and that's something I think where we're all moving ahead, that we need to start looking at those matches. We never looked at it before. We did, and for a lot of the things that we talked about when grants were talking about, I remember for sure Buddy Snowden was saying grant money is not free money. Grant money is not free money. I didn't see it that way then, but
No, it's not.
Echo really created that. He made a believe out of it. Yeah. So we just need to manage manage, what was that thing that Jim was to manage our expectations better. Yes, sir.
Let me highlight here just on ARPA, so you know, you got $1,402,891, that's what the city of Lake Helen got. You spent $427,246 on Virginia Drive, project, so you spent infrastructure there. Spent $170,000 subsidizing the solid waste for 1 year. Think about what that $170,000 will do today. And then we used $200,000 this year for capital. So you haven't utilized ARPA to your advantage.
No, I get it.
Virginia Drive one was just a reimbursement for what we had spent on Virginia Drive.
Well, and then we're still looking at the street department over the next 5-year plan. And I guess for 25, 26, we've got Euclid, Michigan, Ohio, Summit, and Church. That
I
really is gonna be,
highlighted that because we're not gonna be able to do it, I just highlighted, that's what was in last year. That's just to give you an idea, that's what was gonna be this year, we could do it. So,
oh, that's why it's.
yeah, that's why it's in red.
So what's in black?
The newer years, as you go 5 years forward, that's why.
Ricky.
And it's just so you guys get an idea of what the needs are out there, roads and all the different needs, so you know what you're planning for, or you can't do, or can do. But if you don't have a plan, I don't give you a plan of what I think needs to be done on roads and sidewalks and things like that, air conditioners and stuff like that, you'll never know until we come through this, you go, oh,
Well, how do we tell our constituents or people in our zone that, because really when I saw red, I thought, yes, okay, that's a go. The black, 26, 27, that's gonna be on hold, but you may be able to move it up because you've got a whole year there to move, the work up. So, in essence, we're really there's not a definite plan to work on Euclid, Michigan, Ohio,
I'll be bringing that to you in the next, either July or August, out of the $100,000 we had in this year. We'll be doing some things there.
That was the 25,000, you mean?
No, this year's budget. Our budget right now,
Okay.
our budget right now.
No, that's sidewalk.
So that's the site,
That should happen, most of that's gonna happen this year, not all of it.
But what about the road?
The roads, that's something that I put them there, it's just to let you know.
That it needs to be done?
Yes.
I know that.
And the dump truck replacement's gonna be, if we didn't get it this year, it actually will be 25, 26. So two of these things, the road pay will probably get, they say it doesn't get done.
What's gonna happen in Pennsylvania? I mean, what I haven't seen it, but I get calls every day that there's like this huge gully that's off to the side of Pennsylvania that's moving into Pennsylvania. It's about to collapse.
Absolutely.
That's where the street goes under Pennsylvania through the culvert pipe, that's all deteriorated and coming apart.
I had
People
them,
are calling me, I'm like afraid to go down.
I had them, actually, I wanted them to put, to have it surveyed to get it, if it's structurally sound. Because we have a business that's not supposed to be a business, that's rolling dump trucks full of dirt through it. And there were beginning, and I could get down in the ditch and I can see underneath, one part of the road is basically supported by nothing. So even though that they're riding on this side, every time they rumble down there, it begins to deteriorate. The one thing I would, I used to get on Rick's case about not capturing the way that he saves the city's money, because he would get things done that did not cost the city. And then when he would do that, then at the same time, we had a budget discussion, and he's trying to get a nickel and dime. So he is doing, I'm really proud of you, Rick. You're giving us a better perspective and a better picture from the real side of it, as opposed to, well, I'll try to figure out how to get it done. Because there's a lot of things that we never even had to pay $1 for. I mean, sitting on the kitchen mission that I sat on. And so we're now there getting some more, I would say, what's they call that? We're getting some really tough love as to what we are.
Jim's helping make sure that
Yeah.
happens.
And I think the two of them together work well.
100%.
But we're getting more out of what we need to do than we ever had. We kind of
Because
never.
we used to just do things, but now the chickens are coming home.
There you go. And we're running out of chickens.
You're not gonna pay for the sidewalk removal. And generally, you have to pay to have that concrete go somewhere and go. That's gonna be free.
the other way to look at it, and this is, you know, now when you cut the blanket at the top or the bottom, you have a list of equipment you need, you have road issues that you need. And, you know, the road issues, you know, we've got some critical ones, but those are gonna go through the FEMA, you know, the federal process and some money, and we may have to put into there. The equipment, if you decide you don't wanna buy it because you believe you don't need it, and then you need it next year or the year after, it's gonna cost you more. None of these prices are going down. So delaying a piece of equipment just because we wanna hang on to our money is not saving any money.
That's not my point. Maybe I'm not making myself clear. My point is number one, if you take the money out of 3 different departments that we have, utilities,
Yeah, it actually be half, because
Two.
Parks and Rec and roads are all out of
General
general.
fund.
and that are up at the same time, then those, never mind. What I need to know is, looking at this sheet of paper, are we now really looking at what we're going to get from FEMA at the time we're gonna get anything from FEMA? Maybe before we make the decision to repair the roads? Is that what we're hinging everything on, are those dollars?
Well, if we move forward now, without waiting for FEMA's answer, we could avoid us getting any money, because you can't get paid for work not done, so we're a little bit under their rules.
So, but you're answering my questions, at least that's what I'm having to know.
Yeah.
So we're having to,
We can do mitigation,
Yeah, we
we
can
can do
emergency
stabilization and those kinds of things, but if we actually went in there, then they come back and say, okay, you went ahead and did that on your own, so we don't have to fund it.
these are the things that I need to be able to tell the citizens, because they're getting a little
It's not that we
aggravated.
don't wanna fix it, but if we go touch it at all, they're gonna say, you fixed it now, you said it's good, we're not gonna give you any mitigation money.
Just start it, we finish.
So we need everything we can get from FEMA.
So that's the reason we've got this 5-year plan, is we've got to wait to see what FEMA's gonna do or what.
And it gives you a picture forward of 5 years, what I'm anticipating on roads being done, anything like that, and that changes year to year.
And you're starting with the worst, going to the least worst.
Well, yeah, what I think we need to be like, when we did air conditioners, we put them on a 5-year CIP for the city, we did so many one year, we did so many the next year, it kind of gives you a window what's coming next year from our department on some of this, major stuff. You know, if when we go to do the air conditioners, again, I'll put them in there, City Hall, non-air conditioners, you know, CAC at 6 or 7, you know, we did it 2 years, but we took it out, we did we did one time when Don was here, we did the, millings on the roads, that was a 1-year project. You know, so we try to give you what our staff anticipate, road paving, any issue with things on the month, sidewalk repairs, okay, maybe we have all the churches gotta be done. It gives you that idea of what we need, same thing with equipment, buildings, you know, anything we need that comes up, you need to have a window ahead to say, okay, we're gonna have the budget for this, or figure out what we're gonna do, or not do it. You make the final decision, we give you what we think needs to be done, then you ask us why, and then we try to explain, and you make the final decision. It's just a window to help you realize what's coming down our pipeline on our, it's not everything. Like that, the book is big, but it's just the beginning of still stuff.
I've had to do 5-year plans, but I'm just now, it's like this, I'm trying to figure out with the dates, the years, and things like that, what will they cost? The mayor brought up a point that really doesn't, I mean, I think it obviously concerns town, Pennsylvania Avenue, knowing there's these trucks going down there, and you can look at the road, if that road collapses.
It concerns me because I've been that zone commissioner for 12 years. And each time that road collapsed, it's happened, actually twice, the big one on Goodwin, I mean, it collapsed and we couldn't get into that area. I did get the one, fixed that was right down, where was that when we had the, going down Ohio. with-
By Melissa Park.
By Melissa Park,
Yeah.
okay. I walk the roads, I see the striations in the roads, I call come in, we get an inspection, we find out that we got a cauldron that's got two holes coming on one side, one on the other, and the whole thing is collapsing. We had kids that were walking to school, and then we had all this. So I've been on top of this, because that's where I live. Roger is the city commissioner. So we all have our own zones, and I just kind of find it a little bit, if you say that you haven't been down there, but you hear,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I would now you can't go down there because we closed the road off. But when you hear those things, either contact, anything I see, I don't go direct, I call a city administrator. I sent him pictures today because on Church Street, where that big gap is, when I took the pictures right after the hurricane, the last rain we had, the deterioration is now within 5 feet of the road. Okay? October is when the hurricane hit, but like we're also hamstringed by FEMA says if you touch it, you port it. So best we can do is to try to work it through because we can't accelerate them, and we definitely don't have the money to pay for it ourselves. So we are dealing with this, and it's hard to talk to. It's hard to address hearsay. We heard that this is happening. We heard that. Well,
What I heard obviously is true because you verified it.
well, that would be
That is not my zone,
if-
and I try not to.
if it was when it was me and I was on that in commission. If I heard someone in another zone say that something's happening on my side, they'll call you because you're a commissioner or whatever. I would always call the zone the commissioner, my commissioner. I wouldn't even call the mayor. So getting to know your zones and knock on doors and see people, and that's probably the hardest part of it's the easiest part of the job, but it also requires you to do a little bit more than just pick up the phone and read a Facebook page. So,
There's a lot of houses.
okay.
I think
Thank you.
that, I've got it. Okay, I understand what's here now. I just thought the red was go, but not.
Let's just highlight what was on last year's, that I gave you to you. But as you see, it looks like at least 2 of those things are gonna get done.
Okay.
And I don't know the topographical or geographical reason why, but that particular area has been the most flood prone and deteriorating erosion of all of the city streets that I'm aware of. So in that zone, where if it's a natural flow of water that now becomes overly saturated when we have a big flood or a big downfall or rainfall. So when everything is fine, it's no problem, but we only see it when it becomes a major problem. So I don't know who you'd have to look at to make that kind of
The
mistake.
only stream that we have on Lake Elmo.
The only one.
The only stream we have on Lake Elmo is the one that comes off I-4 crosses Church, comes across Main from east I-4 and comes in, and they join there behind, I forget the name of the house there, it's all by itself on the north side of Pennsylvania.
Mr. Tillman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across the street from the
Behind
church.
there is where they come together, and then they come underneath Pennsylvania. So you're getting a lot of water coming through that area.
I wish we could get one guy in here, Tammy John. He could tell you the history of this whole area, but that's another story. Maybe
He's upset because we won't let him kill the deer so he can't eat in his free.
Yeah. I know we got then it's no problem.
I says, I won't complain.
Getting back to ARPA, you're not voting tonight to use ARPA money, you're not voting at all.
No.
Okay? What we're telling you is that we didn't put these items in the general fund. So when we get to July 10th and you set the tentative millage rate, you still have from then until September public hearing on whether you choose to spend ARPA or not. If you choose not to, then those items just aren't in the budget. Because if you try to raise the millage rate after you set a tentative, it's a lot harder and more complex. So pretty much what you said in
set our millage, we can always reduce it. If we shoot higher than we need, and it becomes where we can, it's almost like built in that we have to either go into this with a built-in cushion that we can always reduce. We can always come down. But once you get to a point and you determine how much you need, you can't raise it. You're gonna have to lose somewhere else. So that, I just say, you put that in that bailiwick of things, that toolbox that Louis was talking about. Put that in the toolbox that we can always come down. That's not a fine. Whatever we set, if we need to come down, then we have that option.
Any more discussion just on the ARC and the capital? Maybe the last thing that affects the general fund, we say that to the end. Pass these around because I did some different scenarios. All right, what we got in front of you is just a quick spreadsheet in the sense of where we're at, just as a discussion right now. And you see the personnel at the top, 10 employees at 3%, and police at 6%. That's only because that was the draft that came in. We haven't made a final decision on to do there. So if we didn't make any changes on that, then the millage rate would be 7.16. Flip over a page. If everybody got a 3%, police and general employees, that would reduce payroll by $16,724. The millage rate would be 7.081. The next sheet, just as some examples, is 3.5% reduces the payroll by 10,662. Millage would be 7.111. 4% reduces it 4,599. 7.140. I only put 4.5 in just from a negotiating standpoint. I'm just saying if you were in a union basis, and you take where they're at and where we start at, because I hypothetically where you probably would end up in the middle. So I just use that as an example. Now that would require us to go back and find $1,463 in the general fund, and that would give us a millage of 7.169. So all those scenarios keep us below the 7.25. So it's just a matter of you as a board. Again, you got the one decision involving the police request for 6. So decision on that, and then what you believe then should be an appropriate raise. I'll only say what I said on Monday is that it gets very difficult, especially with a small workforce, is when there's that kind of disparity in the raise from one to the other. But again, that's not my call. That's the commission's decision in terms of that process.
So the commissioners in this?
Pardon?
Is the commissioners in there as personnel or,
You're in the payroll sheet, but this is just the general fund and police department.
So does this include the increase of 40,000 for, public works?
All the increases that we talked about from the past few
Oh,
days.
no. I put 40,000 back in. funds went up, I think altogether it was an average of 10% of all the assessments, but the fire went up 14.87. Stormwater went up based on the report, and garbage went up 1.89. Yeah, 14.87. Now, if I play with that number, you took the 40 to 25, you get a 7.202. Take it out, 3% across the board, the millage rate would be 7.081.
Is the goal not to exceed the previous year? What is the goal? Because it seems to be moving.
No, that's my goal. You guys have the goal you tell us. Mine was I didn't want to
Yeah,
millage rate
as
higher.
close as zero as possible. Whether you can really do that or not. I mean, that's what the scientists want.
Well, you can see the big article where all these teachers in Lake County are losing, 8,000.
Did you see what the final report after they dropped the hanky?
Yeah, see what?
See the final report after they dropped the hanky? The hanky signals the end of the session.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's up to the governor if he's gonna sign any of that stuff.
See that.
Well, the homestead exemption restrictions study has to be in the legislations finalized by October 1st of 25, I believe. And then they'll be able to study and bring it out next year if they want to bring it before the citizens to do away with the property tax. But there's some other tax reductions in there too.
So I guess the first thing would be to come to a general consensus on what you want to plug in. Now, again, keep in mind, you can change any of these numbers, but we're setting for the tentative millage rate not to exceed for July 10th. Decide after that.
Well, that's when we set our tentative, and that's what we cannot go above.
You can, but it's very complicated.
Yeah,
It gets very complicated.
there's some type of formula you gotta follow.
Yeah, and special advertising and everything.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, we wouldn't want to go there.
No.
The only reason I ask what is the objective with the millage, because it always has seemed at every budget hearing, whatever millage that we have, there's always somebody complaining that could get done less. No matter where that number starts, it's always less. So my question was, is there some sweet spot that would kind of, if what we had last year, if we kept it the same thing with this year, would that make people happy? Would it be more cost effective to have the millage and then either just be a little lower? I've just never seen it work that we just, whatever you put in, it's always gonna be
Why you're doing the millage runs like we're doing now?
yeah.
They want you to set it as low as possible you can. After you get it done and they realize what you can't do, they complain that you're not doing anything because you don't have the money, that you set the millage rate too low. So,
I'm in that choir. You preach to that choir.
We're offering a lot from the dollars that have been put together to give to the citizens of the different departments.
it's a lot of dollars, but because the cost of everything has gone up, it's really not that much material to it. That's why we gotta have people like Ricky that can get us extra stuff for the buck.
You have some
Yeah.
people own a home in Lake Ellen, they don't pay any taxes, but they pay assessments.
And where I
But
live,
yet,
I pay
you see them posting and complaining about their taxes.
But that's all,
And they don't
And
pay.
that's water and trash.
but it's all like the stormwater, trash, all of that is all included in my water.
Exactly.
So you don't see it on the tax bill. So when you see it on the tax bill, it's like, oh, but I'm still paying it, because as I said, the Langley average water bill is $130 a month.
We,
You know, which is
We
like
talked
$3.
about doing that in ours too.
I mean, people have moved on a dirt road because it was cheaper when they bought the house. And then when they moved the house, when they got the house, they didn't want the roads paid. But you bought it because it was cheaper. But now you want us to now fund the road.
And go
And
with
then when you get them paying the road, their property value goes up, and then they complain they're paying more taxes.
So, I think this is really important discussions that we had, just to be, so that we can, as a group, hear this, because we're gonna be talking to our residents, and they're gonna either pick us off one by one. If we don't get on the same page and understand, if we can agree where we are going, or where we're coming from, and how we're doing the best, as opposed to just being the poster child of somebody to hate. So, we,
Well, I lived on a dirt road in Deland, on a 4,000 square foot home, and I hated the dirt road, so I wanted it paved, and the county came back and said, have at it, you're paying for it. The county wasn't gonna pay for it,
thank you. But
so.
It's the same thing like my street, if I'm paying for it.
we like,
The only one there.
we like living in Lake Helen. That's, I guess if we can make that our focus as to where we're going and why we're here. We love living here. And anytime that you get something that you care about and you love, it's gonna take you a little bit more to keep it. Would be worth it if it was just something you could snap your finger. But we have, what I'm seeing around this table, and our staff is what keeps this city humming. Whether it's one person, but it's a group of people. And the commission, we're all part of this one family here, whether we like it or not. And like any family, we don't all agree, but we can at least accept the fact that we are part of the same process. I'm preaching today, because I didn't pray that Lord has the prayers. I got to pray.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
On other government, on page 16, under other current charges. Could we go into that a little bit? I'm sorry, this is a repetitive question.
The notes is like the piano and anything at the, like, city hall building and stuff, like, we did when we put the plants out there and stuff like that last time, and mulch, rock, and dogs there. The tuning of the piano here at city hall, that was one of our notes we put on there, was the piano and stuff.
And the actual current right now is, do we know?
On the other current,
Yes.
Other charges, where we're at.
Yes, thank you.
We budgeted, 15
last year.
last year, and we spent 327.
We talked about this, I think, yesterday, that's why that's why it was being lowered to 5,000 from last year.
$320-some. Let's bring that down to 1,500 then.
2.5% reduces the payroll by 22,506. And that gets you to 7.037.
Oh, say that again.
7.037.
037.
Jim, does that include adding the figure she was talking about in that road maintenance line item?
Oh, not the 40,000.
Okay.
No, if I add 40,000 in there,
Oh, wait, so that last one?
40,000 takes us, 7.229, so it'd be an increase.
So on that 7.065, you had added the 40 back there?
No, I just reduced it by 3,500. So adding the 40,000 in on that and 2.5% takes you to 7.229. And we're at 7.250, so that would be.
Is there any way you can kind of give me a figure, give us a figure with the non-ad valorem, with all of the increases, especially the fire department at 14%? I know that's a flat rate across through, every month. Based on the, property taxes, because that went up quite a bit. That could possibly push us over what our goal is.
Well,
That don't get added.
yeah,
into the
I mean,
bill.
it's on your
No,
bill.
I know it does.
It's not in the bill.
It's still by you pay.
A single family home, single family,
Doesn't affect our budget.
No, I know, it's before we, what I'm trying to figure out is what are our citizens gonna have to pay with the that going up 14% higher? What their total bill is, they're gonna have to pay.
That's when they get the heart attack notice from the county. You know, the trim notice, I call it the heart attack notice.
Yeah.
the assessment for a single, family home in Lake County, garbage, stormwater, and fire will be $957.80. Last year it was $863.26. So that's a $94.54 increase. And my math is right, adding them all together, that was a 10.96% increase.
10.9% increase.
Now, the fire went up higher, but the garbage was 1.89, so that's where it affects that ratio.
That's so you're saying the total net, non-ad valorem went up 10%, not 16% total?
Yeah, I've got 10.96, 11%.
But that's still almost $1,000 per household.
Does that include recommended increase on our stormwater?
Yes. Yeah, that was the 107.75.
That's 7.065. We have not put the 40,000 back into that. So
Yeah, when I
actually
put the
it's
40 in, you're
7.265.
3,500 off, I think.
That makes more sense.
7.229.
Okay. 7229
Yeah.
makes more sense, yeah.
And that 7.229 is based on the 2.5 column.
No,
Plus
I think it
That's
was,
the 3.
No.
oh, that's the 2.5.
That's the
2.5.
Plus the 40.
So if you put it at 3 across with the 40.
While he's working on that, maybe Brandon can speak to this because it's my understanding that we're still gonna have to go through negotiations on the payroll for the police department, or will this be set on two?
That's up to the union. Whether they want to accept the 3% or they want to go into negotiation.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
So
so that's how
it will go to the union,
correct.
okay,
At
so that's not a definite then.
a 3% with the 40,000. Okay. 3% with the 40,000 added back, and 3,500 deducted from that one line item. put you at 7.257. So that's a 0.7% increase over this year's tax rate.
Are we there yet?
How soon does this go to the union for review?
So I don't know. I don't have any control of the union, so they would have to set a date to, go into negotiation.
So whoever is the president.
I'll let them know when it's decided upon, but.
Do we have, who's the representative here that talks to the union?
Officer Crowd is the president right now, yeah.
Okay, so Jane would be the one who would go and discuss this stuff.
They would probably have a union meeting prior with the officers, and they would discuss what they want to do.
I was just wondering about the time. Before the vote, will we actually know? Agreement is.
I don't know if we'll know by July 10th, but you would know by September's public hearings where you actually adopt it.
The union can gather an entire for any reason, correct? It's not just in reference to today.
What's that?
If the union needed any
I'm
time.
gonna go right now.
Yeah,
Okay, on.
if y'all are asking about us meeting, like meeting beforehand, I would go to everybody and tell them, say, hey, we need to meet before July 10th. Is that the next meeting?
That's just to be where they, yeah, that's where they go to attend the village rate.
Yeah, we can get everybody together before then.
All right, and on, page 18. In the middle there, other event. And the note is Melissa Park for 10,000. Budget. Is that?
I don't think that that's correct. The other event, we separated the special events and the others because
somebody.
So what you can do is, I mean, so road would still be covered. You leave another 160 in ARPA, that's 105, and, he takes the roof off. No, I put in one too many zeros, that little bit. If you took the roof out and took the roads off of there, or took that from ARPA, and at a 3%, you're at 7.026.
That's what the 40,000 back in.
No, I took it out because that would come out of the 200,000 from ARPA,
So we're at what, 7?
7.026.
So we need a consensus on this motion tonight. We need a consensus on this motion tonight, or when we come back.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you'll vote on it in terms of there, I mean, but we'll pull up the package and have it get there. Now, it could get changed at the July meeting, I mean, because that's when, Scott told me to get, before you make the final decision, that's when the public comments.
You might wanna make sure that was supposed to be.
Well, I know we're not trying to rush it along, I mean, we're 7:51, and I do want to talk, it's not that.
I was just fixing.
Pardon?
When is this contract ending?
It's annual, and it was a 3-month deal, but I brought the copy here, I want to pass that around.
I sent you details, if you get someone that's adding a new hour.
Oh, yeah, I sent you back, and that's the format that I've used everywhere else, but you have an in-house finance person. And I'm not knocking there, but his report is cumbersome.
Well, then this is,
That's why I asked him to get down to that simple 5 pages in the back, it's easier to follow.
and everything's clear.
Yeah. So the format is very easy, the format that almost all of us use internally in the sense, in terms of there. He's got a lot of pages on there, like I said, we flip through, so look at 5 through, 14, it's just like, well, we've got 30-some pages in there, I mean, so, I'm not saying from an accounting standpoint, yes, information I look at, there's some revenue areas and all, but that's typically not, what's the commission, so yeah.
Well, like Charlotte said the other night, I mean, this is almost like
Job security.
job security numbers, money is, and then we start finding out errors. You know, that's kind of scary, and we're voting on something that we really don't know is an error, it's like payroll, putting, the chief in as, Representative Joy, as, and then there are a couple other errors, that's kind of scary. And Roxanne knows, she and I met with Zach Phillips, and he didn't act like he did much about anything on a variance report, did he?
She ain't saying no.
Well, she did, I will say that she did have to kind of explain.
Correct. On the budget, just so I'm recounting. Took out, I've got it at 3%, so that was a reduction of 16,724 on payroll. Hurricane reserve was 90. Contracted services was 75,000. CAC was 11,300. Parks and Rec supplies was 29,000. City Hall miscellaneous, piano, 3,500. Roof at the park, 8,000. And moving the 40,000 to ARPA, keeping, pushing the roof off, thinking we may be able to get that out of the water money, but it still may come back next year. I mean, like Rick said, it's not falling today, but it's something that's there, and that right now leaves us at 7.026.
And if we keep the 40,000 in,
Heather.
I know, I'm sorry that.
She's a number person, that's.
I know, I was saying, we were good with 7.026.
7.26.
get the whole percentage in the beginning, we get 6 months later, 3%. So it kind of stays right in opposite the four, I think about like 4.5, we kind of figured roughly, so these all together for the year.
That's something you have to do.
Yeah, it was just something he said to go through out so you could take that between them, but he didn't
That's
have it together.
his thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still budget for 6, other than calculating what the little stages of each couple months, but ideally, you put in 6, but then some.
Well, and that changes the numbers a lot.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
I mean, if we put in another 3 in at 6 months, so that won't calculate that for me on here.
Right. Well, it's gonna all come out, you might as well just say 6%, because it might, even if it happens in 3 months, it's still happening, so. Might as well just put it in as 6%.
$50,000 increase, and then 6% next to the office.
Yeah, but that changes the numbers.
So,
of-
30 to 20.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
So open the public comment.
All right, just pass it out. Did everybody get it?
Yes.
All right. This is the contract.
I ran,
The contract is annual as of October 1. I guess we originally went into it in, looks like it was April of 2019. So he's on a year to year from October 1. If there's any termination, it requires notice, and then in 3 months, notice of intent to terminate the agreement unless, the date is usually agreed upon by both parties. So it could be terminated, I mean, so there's no, we're stuck for a year or 2 years or what have you.
but then we would have to hurry up and put, because it's in October, right?
Yeah, you can terminate it in November. So all you have, once you tell them, you gotta give 3 months notice.
Okay.
But it will automatically renew in October.
We would have to put this out.
His annual fee has not gone up since.
Oh, no,
'93.
no, there's another
Oh,
clause in
yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah,
gone.
Yeah, the fee goes up and it's based on some CPI index, so just like Waste Pro and everybody else there. Yeah, we're up to 70,
63.
I thought it was 77 counting the general fund and the water. Are we
Oh,
paying?
yes, yes.
Yeah, now 77,000.
We're paying him 77,000 to show up how many times.
Well,
3,000 a year max.
flip through, right, that's all I say, there's a chart,
Page
and
2E.
little boxes, and I highlighted, it should be in color for you, flip it up the pages.
Well, the second page, item E, talks about the renewal cost.
No, keep going, there's,
Yeah, you're looking at what they do.
yeah,
Maybe I'll write one.
so,
One staff meeting annually.
no, for budget,
Oh, yeah, for budget, okay.
and 2 meetings with the commission.
I want that job, Heather, you wanna, why?
So that's when he meets, he does do the county, he does do counting.
No, where you miss is the day-to-day.
Yes,
In
that's
terms of,
what it is.
and quite honestly, I've not done this. I mean, the finance director said it'd be the one running numbers and was it for you. I mean, we've got the spreadsheet in order to do it, but I mean, we're in reality, that's what they do.
You could get a finance person to be in city hall every day for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe a little more when you count in the benefits or whatever. I mean, because, but you would get other things out of them too.
That's right.
Well, even separate from that, financial things, I mean, questions that come up and, we send emails, whatever, but for staff to have the access of a person, I mean, on a regular
You
basis,
can talk to him,
need.
down to you all around.
He can't, I'll be honest with you, I was frustrated, we set up a meeting for him to come out with staff. And we're having our meeting, and
normally the workshops are really not as productive as this. So the fact that we have people in the audience now that have sat through this, I'd like to hear what you thought about what we have been doing. Is there something that you thought that we should do differently? Are we doing sufficiently that is satisfactory? I'd like to hear that. 'Cause
I was disappointed, that I was shut down, that I wanted to ask a question. I have been to your workshop before and was allowed to speak. You did let people speak without calling them down. Rick's wife, Joey, spoke for the audience, you didn't shut them down. So I think my rights were violated for not being able to make a comment.
Well,
And the budget is over with, the budget meeting's over with now. And I had some comments on things you might want to consider.
the budget is still, we do have to have public comments when we have our meetings. If I remember, last night, it was sort of, not last night, it was, I'll just give you my apology. And that's only because we were under the impression that, I was under the impression that as, and I'm the mayor, that we would just get through this without getting too sidetracked, because that's what generally happens through our meetings. So this was a budget, and I think the production of what we've done, I think it speaks for itself, that there might be some things that we could do better, or something that you would want us to do differently, but we cannot make our decisions around this table. Our people, we are the ones that you elected us to be here for. And we can do better, yes, but I think that that's a two-way street. Sometimes you treat us like we are not really, whatever you think about us, it has to, we have to accept it because we're in this role. And we're not trying to get back at you, but we want to get this done. We want to get the city's work done. And again, if I am the one that you feel was slighting you, I can guarantee you it was not intentional. The bigger picture of what I want to be able to do is what you just seen here. It's been our privilege to sit here and serve. And so if there is anything I can give you as an apology, if one is needed. But I think we're adults here. I think we can also accept the fact that we have been able to manage this meeting and come productively forward for the city. And that's not something that needs to be a headline in a Facebook page or YouTube, but for the benefit of the city, I think we've done a lot. So, is that what you wanted to say, or is that more that you wanted to say?
I'll talk to when you do the commission meeting.
Thank you. Okay. And I appreciate that too. I've not had people who come to me and talk to me about things that I read on social media. I'm open. My phone, I've never had a phone message either at City Hall that has a message for Mayor Burton. I don't get messages. Nobody calls me. Not that I want you to make that point, but I'm available. I talk to people. So, is there anyone else?
I guess I do have to add one more thing.
Yes, please.
See, and this is, it probably needs to happen before commission meetings. I know there's two commissioners that have mentioned Volusia County Sheriff. He should come in here and tell us, Lake Helen, what he can offer us and what the price is. Because now we're talking that they want maybe a 3%, 6 months later another 3%. Nobody gets 6% raise a year. That's ludicrous. So that's your bargaining chip. You're gonna take the 2.5 or 3, where you might not have a job for one thing. But we ought to see, like, the talk about property taxes might go away in 2 years. We've got to start looking at saving money. So you got two commissioners asked to have them come in, and Charlene was shut down about a year ago
you shut down or they didn't give a motion?
No, they wouldn't second.
They would second the motion.
This is
Wait,
let me just say real quick, this
Please
is
do.
my point. It is our responsibility to be financially, fiscally responsible for the city. When you're making decisions, uneducated decisions, and how can it be an educated decision if you don't look at all sides, is what I'm saying. So that's all I'm asking, is just a little bit of education, so we know what our options are. You're just going through things with blinders on. Listen, this ain't got nothing to do about, I love our police department and all the guys in there. But the thing is like, you have to, to go through life and not be willing to be educated, that's a sad situation to be in, is all I'm saying.
And by being respectful of Sunshine, Charlene can't come to any one of us and, I mean, she can say it in open, but if she were to get one of us to the side and say, would you second that motion for me? She'd never do that. So when we do this in open, and if she puts a motion forward, I certainly can't second it. But if she puts a motion, there are other citizens, there are other commissioners here, and they may not feel the same way as she does. But if none of them says, I second, I don't get to call the motion. I don't get to call the vote. And since we are having this as an open discussion, the fact that we have not had, before I became the mayor, the fact that we haven't had the chief, I call him the chief, the sheriff come in, and I know they have given us proposals, given y'all, commissioners that were here before. I've never seen a commission, I've never sat on a commission where the sheriff has given us a nuts and bolts of what it would take. I've heard a lot of the what ifs. One of the what ifs I think was mentioned that if the county raises their salaries to $30 an hour, and if we were to hire them, then that might be, however that sounds, that's kind of what you get when you get secondhand noise. But we haven't had him come in and say, this is what we would get, and this is how we would do it. The one thing that he does have as a role model, maybe we can talk to some of the people in Deltona, because they don't have a police force.
Neither does the Barry.
And the Barry.
Now, let me just say, I
Sheriff's
think,
Department does Oak Hill and Pearson with contracts.
2 years ago, when I first started this, I went and I met with Chitwood and 3 or 4 of his really top guys. I was very impressed. Now, some of that could just be blowing smoke, I don't know. But if he's in a room full of people and he's saying this is, black and white, whatever, then we would have to make a decision as a whole. I can't come to everybody and say, hey, this is what he said, because then that's hearsay. So that was all I was wanting out. I know Lake County doesn't want to get rid of the police department. I'm not stupid, but I just would like a little bit of education, because smaller cities are doing away with that. They are consolidating services because.
Well, to be fair, we just wanted to hear from the from the public, and in a general meeting, when the public addresses the city commission, what we read, what we state, is that this is not to be a back and forth. But this small group of meeting, if we can just release some of the tension, release some of the pressure, and go back to where and just build on what we've already did today, and not tear it down. I did see Nancy saying.
I
Yes,
agree. I agree completely with what Ron has said and Charlene has said. We're the taxpayers, we're the ones that live here, and we should have some input, some say. It is our community, and we are a small community. We should all be neighbors. We should also all be treated politely, whether you like someone or don't like someone. To holler, scream, yell, it is unprofessional. And we, as a commission, you all need to address how Ann was talked to the other night, how others have been talked to. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Okay. Thank you.
let's talk, Pat. city administrator 2 years ago. Several pages I can give you of attacking citizens in your community. So just talk about politeness and being nice and loving each other. Read her Facebook. It's the curator of hate is what you have in your community. And so when we're talking about a pattern, this goes back to 2 administrators ago. And this is right out of social archiving from Facebook though. So to sit here and act like, you know, I'm holier than thou, no, let's call it what it is.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Final positive note, I got an email here from Woodard and Curran at 747. They said, yeah, they're confirming the 375, but you also have 225,000 that made it through the storm.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you on that note.
I love me some water, water report.
Yes.
Or however you say it.
He got all of it.